Chris, will you marry me?
You make me chicken like that, I might.
He likes fried chicken too. All right, tonight we're making Marry Me chicken. Let's get started. We're going to start by browning our chicken and getting it ready. But let me just kind of show you what we're going to be using today. We're going to be using heavy whipping cream with a little chicken broth to make our sauce and Parmesan cheese. We're going to use some red pepper flakes. Those are optional. Black pepper, basil to make it pretty after it's plated, some kosher salt and pepper to go on the chicken, some thyme leaves, and some sun-dried tomatoes. It's going to be really good, y'all. We're going to get started, and I've got my sides already over here cooking and almost done, and we're going to slide this into the oven and let the chicken finish cooking in the oven. All right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use a thermometer in my chicken so that I make sure and get it to the right temperature. And if you don't have a thermometer, the best thing you can do is cook it until when you cut into it, the juices run clear. But I would rather use a thermometer any day just to make sure. I'm going to put it in the fattest one right in the center, okay? And when I brown it, this is already going to be in there, and that way I can put it in the oven. I'm going to go ahead and unplug it, but then we'll put it in the oven to finish it off. All right, your oven needs to be on 375 degrees. Let's go ahead and prep this stuff over here and get it ready. You're just going to strip the thyme leaves off the, off the stems. And about a tablespoon is all you're going to use. I think it's what it said, about a tablespoon. Somebody was telling me the other day on the comments that they love thyme. I'm pretty sure, I can't remember if it was their steak or their pork chops that they use it on. I'm going to tell you, these fresh herbs are not cheap at the grocery store. So look, this is a recipe that I typically wouldn't do. I'm just curious to know what it tastes like. I'm sure it's still delicious without the thyme. If you don't want to thyme the spice, if you don't want to spend all the money for this fresh spice, then just use the dried and chop it good with your knife to bring out some of the flavor. Sun-dried tomatoes. It calls for the dried ones instead of the ones that are in jars. This recipe does. And it just says to chop them. And there you have those. I'm going to chop up my thyme a little bit. Okay, just like that. And then let's go ahead and chop up some of this basil. The basil come right out of our garden, so we didn't have to pay two prices for it. It smells good too. Smells good. Okay. That's all there is to it. Season your chicken with kosher salt and black pepper. I'm going to go ahead and turn my skillet on over here. I'm using a skillet that's about the size of my chicken. And I think it's going to be all I need, personally. Chris thinks it's a little too little, but I think it's going to work. I think it's going to work. Put some pepper on them. And I think that's good. We're going to bring these over here. I'm about out of olive oil. This is a non-stick skillet. So your pan really needs to be about the size of what you're cooking. You shouldn't have a whole lot of extra room in the skillet. So we're going to sear these and get them nice and golden brown. We may have to turn them a little bit. All right, we're going to be using 3/4 cups of chicken broth and a 1/2 cup of heavy cream. And I'm going to put it all in the same, and I'm going to put a little bit of this good old chicken grease in there. 2 maybe. Yeah, it'll probably go in there. So you got 3/4 cups of this. Let me get some of that out. What we could do is use this to for our vegetables instead of the oil that it calls for in the recipe. We'll saute our garlic and stuff in there. Chicken grease from my broth. Okay, let's see if I got 3/4 cup in here. Yep, 3/4 cup of chicken broth, and this is stock really. And then you're going to be using a 1/2 cup of cream. So we're going to add up to a cup would be 1/4 cup, and then you need to put about a 1/2 more. That should work. So that's heavy cream, 1/2 cup, and 3/4 cups of chicken broth. It's going to be good. Now, you're going to take your spices, your garlic, your thyme, your red pepper flakes, and you're going to saute them in that oil, or I took the fat off of this chicken to saute them in. But you're going to do it at a low temperature because your garlic does not need to be on a high temperature or it will not taste good, okay? So when we add the spices in, we're just bringing out their aromas. We want this to get nice and golden, and it's not. So I'm going to turn it up a little bit. And it's going to smoke a little. And that's why I wanted this little pan, because you don't want this big pan with a bunch of room around it when you're trying to brown some. It always smokes up the house and makes the doggone fire alarm go off. Smoke alarm, not fire alarm. I had men always get on to me for saying that. The only thing we got left is Parmesan cheese and this. Now, that's pretty doggone easy, ain't it, y'all? How easy peasy is that? Let's see how it looks. Now, it's going to finish cooking in the oven. It's just not getting too brown. So it's pretty simple. You just have to get it nice and golden brown on both sides and be patient because it's going to take a few minutes. And you don't want to burn it because then you'd have a bunch of char in the bottom of your skillet and it would mess up your sauce, okay? So just be patient. Don't turn it up too high because you want a nice some nice flavor in the pan. If you don't have a pigtail food flipper, man, these things are amazing, especially with raw chicken. They're super sharp. I noticed a couple of people last week bought caveman tools with this, and I'm sure you were disappointed when you got it because it's not skinny and sharp like that on the end like these are. Make sure you go through the link to get these because if you don't, you're not going to get a good tip, all right? You want a good, sharp, thin tip. Just kind of watch your chicken and turn it up and down if you need to. Just don't let it burn. All right, y'all, let's take them out. That one looks good. That one looks okay. I think these two pretty sides that we'll use and keep facing up. So you have to take the chicken out while you're making your cream sauce and set it to the side. And then we'll put it back in here in just a minute. Keep your temperature gauge in there because they're going in the oven in a minute. All right. And now what you're going to do is see that pan. It's got some good drippings in it, but they're not burnt. So I'm going to turn this heat down to a very low temperature because I don't want my garlic to overcook and get too hot. So we're going to add the garlic, the thyme, and the red pepper. So here's our thyme. Some red pepper. I'm not going to use a whole lot of red pepper. And then this is the garlic. And you can dice it, but I like to use a press. I think it's easier. A couple of cloves. We'll put this chicken fat in there with it. And you can use olive oil or whatever you got. And really, you're just going to heat that up enough that it smells good. Like I said, don't get it too hot because you don't want the garlic to burn. And that's about good right there. Looks delish. Now all you're going to do from that point, looks really good, is put in your juices and your tomatoes. Now here's our broth and cream going in. And let me grab our tomatoes. Now, this is not a recipe like Mama made. This is a recipe that was super popular a couple of years ago on the internet, Marry Me Chicken. And I just really wanted to try it. It already looks beautiful, don't it, Chris? So what you're going to do is you're going to let this cream thicken. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to get this out. I'm going to turn it on. And we're going to take it to chicken mode. And then we're going to turn this on and put our probe in here. And this is going to tell us what the chicken is at this point, 127. It's got to get to 165. And you can usually take chicken out a few minutes before it's at the perfect temperature, and it will rise a few degrees once it's out of the oven if you let it rest about 5 minutes. But now look, y'all really need to cook your chicken till it's good and done. And if you don't have a thermometer, then do your best. What I would recommend, if you don't have a thermometer, is to trim down the breasts so that they're not so big. The problem with doing that is that they won't be quite as juicy when you reduce them like that. But if you're worried about it. Oh, I haven't added my parm. That's why it's not getting thick. You put about a quarter cup of parm in it. I'm losing my mind. And that's about how much we got in here. Really close. That'll make it thick. I was thinking, ain't it getting a little thick? I'm going to turn it off. We're going to put our chicken back in it. And make sure your thermometer is turned so that your chicken can cook. You know, and it's not lifting it up off the bottom of your skillet. All right, I'm going to take, real quick, I'm going to take a little scooper and just kind of put some of the sauce on top of the chicken while it's cooking. That pan worked out just perfect. So this recipe works really good for 2 people. All right, 2 large chicken breasts. We're going to slide this into our oven. And we're going to take it out. When the chicken reaches the internal temperature, this will beep and let us know when that's going to be. It's at 129. It's got to get to 165. All right, now we're going to cream up our potatoes. Mama always used a mixer, and so I do too. We're going to put some black pepper in them. Let me know if you put black pepper in your potatoes, because Chris's mama don't. She don't put black pepper. She lets you do it at the table. But my mama always put it in there, so I'm just wondering what you do. All right, salt. And I use salted butter. Actually, this is unsalted. I don't know who bought this. Wasn't me. Probably somebody on Instacart. I would never get unsalted butter. That's good to know, because now there won't be salt going in there with the butter, so it might take a little more salt. And we're going to put a little bit of sour cream in it. And we're going to serve this Marry Me chicken with these delicious potatoes and some cabbage, because that's what I had in the refrigerator. All righty, we'll mix them up. And I add a little milk to them, but I mix them a little bit first. If you use sour cream and butter, once that butter melts, it's a little bit of moisture going in. Now, if you want exact measurements of my recipes, you can go online, go to collardvalleycooks.com, and then go to Southern Recipes. Scroll all the way down to the bottom to Southern Sides, and you can learn how to make my cabbage. I actually didn't make it my perfect way tonight. And you can learn how to make my cream potatoes. It's good to taste them and make sure they got enough salt in them. Well, they don't, because my butter wasn't salted. If my butter had been salted, that'd have been perfect. Okay. Our chicken is up to 143 degrees, so it won't be long. Delicious, fluffy potatoes for supper. And we've got some cabbage to go with it. All right, me and Chris have a bet. He don't think it'll go up 5 degrees after it sits 5 minutes, but I think it will. It's at 162. It only has to reach to 165. It's got 2 more degrees, and I get to pull it out. And I think it'll go to 170. Our bet's on. Got to get it out of here. Oh, that's pretty. Plum purty, purty, purty. Okay, let's see how much the temperature rises. 165 it is. You hear the beep. Boy, that's pretty. All right, it's been almost 5 minutes. We got about a minute left. And it has reached 169.9. It's about to hit 170. So it did raise 5 degrees like I thought it would. So I'm the winner, winner, chicken dinner. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Okay, 170 it is. Now, it may start continuing to rise, but at this point, I'm taking out the thermometer, and we're going to plate it up. I'm going to take the skinniest one on my plate. And some good old cabbage. Put on top of your chicken and on your potatoes if you want to. All right, y'all, the sauce is all over my plate. cut into this breast meat. Looks good. It's nice and tender. I'm going to get a little bit of my cream potatoes to go with it. And I want a tomato for sure. Come here, marry me chicken. Get in this sauce. It's a big bite, y'all. Gotta give me a minute to chew. Very good. This is restaurant quality. If you made this for company, they'd think they'd gone to a high-end restaurant. This is not something like Mama would make. This is something like a chef would make. Okay? It's good. Y'all need to try this. It is outstanding. You want to buy it, Chris?
Thing that I would recommend before I even taste this is that you get a meat thermometer.
Yes. It's got just enough red pepper.
That's really good. And I mean, you could serve it with pasta. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff you could do with that.
Oh, yeah.
That's delicious.
You could serve this with rice, pasta, cream potatoes. It wouldn't matter what it was served with. It'd just be delicious, y'all. Delicious, delicious meal. Get you a nice thermometer. You can always hop on the website and get one. So, hope you've enjoyed watching Marry Me Chicken. I sure am glad Chris asked me to marry him back in 1999. Y'all have a blessed day, and we'll see you next time on Collard Valley Cooks, where we cook Marry Me Chicken. I can see why it was such a popular recipe.